What's going on, YouTube? And welcome back here to another day here in the MCPARKS server. And today we're back in EPCOT in Walt Disney World, and we're going to be going over the Imagination Pavilion. Now this area has a ton of history to it, a ton of origins, backstory, and everything else in between. So let's start off with opening day of EPCOT, when this attraction first opened in the Imagination Pavilion. And that was the attraction which was originally called Journey into Imagination. And Journey into Imagination was the original incarnation of this attraction. And really, I mean, right from the front, you could tell just kind of what a weird building this is. You could see it throughout pretty much all of Future World. And you've got the upside down fountain, which is right here. I guess they haven't been able to figure it out, but this isn't actually a fountain that goes upside down. So you've got the upside down fountain, and you also have the, I think it's called the jumping fountain. So these fountains kind of jump into each other, which is kind of a cool touch. So there's a lot of interesting things over here. Yeah, you could see them kind of doing it right there. So kind of cool. And they kind of jump across each other, and kind of the imagination type of gag you would expect over here. You also have the theater, which used to house a couple of different attractions. At one point it used to be, I believe it was Captain EO, and eventually it became Honey, I Shrunk the Audience, and most recently I think it was a Pixar Film Festival type of attraction. So it's changed over the years. Unfortunately, I've never actually been in that theater, so maybe next time I will go over there just to say I've been there, but it's really not much of a draw, and I'm kind of ashamed they got rid of Honey, I Shrunk the Audience, because I think that was kind of a cool attraction. Looking back, kind of wish I was able to do. So this is the exit. We'll get there in a minute. But really, this attraction, like I said, has had many different incarnations, and eventually it got to the point where Disney decided they were going to change Journey into Your Imagination, or Journey into Imagination into Journey into Your Imagination. And this was a very, very controversial, very much vitriol was met for that new attraction, and people did not like it. So it was Journey into Your Imagination, but the problem with this attraction was it had removed, this used to be a table that you used to actually spin on the ride. It was very innovative at the time. Completely got rid of it, got rid of Dreamfinder. Dreamfinder didn't exist, and there was a very little segment with Figment for about 5 seconds at the end. So the attraction completely got rid of everything that was really what made Journey into Imagination great. And people were very upset. Very, very, very upset with the fact that they had done what they had done. And eventually, in the, I believe it was the 90s or the early 2000s, Disney decided, obviously people don't like this attraction, and they decided to bring back Figment into Journey into Your Imagination with Figment. And this attraction is still here today. This is the only version of the attraction I know. I hopefully didn't make anybody feel too old with that statement. But there was different areas that you could go into. So there was the sensory labs, and this is kind of what you go through in the attraction. There's the sight lab, the smell lab, the sound lab, the taste lab, and the touch lab. And you go through all these different little things with Dr. Nigel Channing, and his assistant Figment. Now, obviously Figment comes in, and in the beginning Nigel Channing is much more of a no, we have to do everything by the book, everything has to be done this way, and Figment kind of gets the softer side out of the Doctor Nigel Channing, and eventually at the end, which we see, is a totally different vibe around the attraction. It's much more of a fun, whimsical attraction. But this is still seen as an inferior attraction. Journey into Imagination with Figment was better than the second incarnation, but it never lived up to that first version of the attraction. And Some people have mixed thoughts about Figment. I mean, Disney has realized Figment is a cash cow. So at this point, I would say Disney and Figment are kind of intertwined, and he makes so much money for the Disney company. So I could really see a path where Figment stays in the attraction. Um, there were rumors in the late 2010s that we might see something like Inside Out come into the attraction. Um, Ultimately, those plans fell through. There was rumors maybe we could see something at the Wonders of Life for Inside Out, and eventually that focus kind of shifted. So it sounded like Imagination was safe. But it just doesn't, I don't know, it's one of those things where this attraction is just very outdated. It's a very 90s attraction. And for Disney, when they're trying to invest in the parks and things like that, Figment's kind of one of those attractions you never really have to wait for unless it starts to pour in Future World and everybody runs to Figment because it's raining and I just want to go inside. That's what Figment's for, for the most part. And it's kind of a shame because it is, like I said, I've never seen the original version, so it's hard for me to talk about how good or bad this is compared to it, but the spirit of this attraction is something I can genuinely enjoy. And this attraction also made me cry as a kid. I remember the part where the music kind of freaked me out. And then, of course, the puff of smoke, which I think was here, right? They do the eye test and they puff the smoke in your face. And then, of course, the stink from the skunk, which I think we're getting to soon. But there were little gags in this as well that just were really, interesting. I think in this scene you actually you see the butterfly and then you can't see it from this side, little effects that just really were very, again, you wouldn't see that in Disney today. And that's the things about Epcot that give it so much charm that like I said, we're not going to see that stuff in any new attractions, is because people just don't, people don't care about that stuff, unfortunately. So like I said, this is a very controversial attraction and people really have a hard time letting go of what this attraction, was and what it has become. And there you go. I think that's this skunk smell. But yeah, this is an attraction, like I said, I think for the younger kids, it's kind of a fun attraction. It's something a little different. And it really does encapsulate what this whole park used to be about. But as we know, Disney's trying to move away from that and get away from that sort of what this park used to be and what it is today concepts. But with what Bob Iger said not too long ago, kind of saying that any original IPs aren't going to be in Disney, you do worry about Figment, and kind of saying things like that makes you wonder, as much as we think Figment might be safe, he might not be. And we're hoping at this year's D23 Expo later this summer, maybe we'll get some clarity on some kind of change. And, you have to remember the whole upstairs used to be an area that was part of the Imagination Pavilion, and now it's just a DVC Club lounge. That's it. So it would be nice to see them add something more to that area. And maybe one day they will. And the whole image, I think it's called Image Works at the end of the attraction. We'll get to that in a minute. This is kind of cool. This is like Figment's house upside down. So you get to see Figment in his house and everything's flipped around upside down. But these are the kind of zany things you just, again, you really do appreciate it today, because there's so many IP attractions. When there isn't an IP attraction, it makes it stand out so much more. And we kind of talked about this in the land, when I did the land video, how it's very similar to that. It's almost intriguing because it almost seems like such a foreign concept with today's Disney. And like I said, I think it really does add to kind of the aura of the attraction. And this is the part, I think, at the end. Yeah, this is the end part. So this is where they have the big reveal at the end, right? And you get to see Figment in his different incarnations of, being an astronaut and a world traveler and little weird things like that. And there you go. So now you see all the little Figments running around and this and that. It's kind of a fun way to end the attraction. Kind of a fun reveal at the end. That's pretty much it. This attraction, like I said, it's been around since opening day, and different incarnations, different themes, different show elements and things like that. But the premise of the attraction stays the same, and that is definitely the creepiest thing on Walt Disney World property. Is the Eric Idle moon, which I'm shocked they were able to put into the ride, but that is hysterical. And yeah, I'd love to know what you guys think in the comment section down below. What would you like to see Disney do with the Imagination Pavilion? Because, you know, at one point I was kind of on board with seeing something with Inside Out, but I'd like to see them do something with that, with the living, not the Living with the Land, the Wonders of Life Pavilion, and keeping this area sort of sacred and letting this area be what it is. Oh, that's kind of cool. You could go all the way through. That's interesting. But yeah, that's gonna do it for today's video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed as much as I enjoyed making this video for you guys. If you have any other questions, let me know down below. I'll hopefully answer them in one of the next Q&As. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and have a magical day.